And hello, movie lovers. And today I'm going to be doing some movie news today for American Psycho. Awesome Butler's actually cast as Patrick Bateman. We also have Sony, a little bit of Sony news. We got a lot of different things here at Movie Lovers Unite as far as movie news goes. So let's go on ahead. Let's talk about these topics that I have lined up. So let's do it. And hello, movie lovers. So, like I said, I actually have a little bit of movie news here. I actually have Clayface actually getting a greenlit to get a live action adaptation. I also have Austin Butler's going to be in the remake of American Psycho. I've also got Sony reportedly canceled Spider-Man spin-off films after multiple flops. So I have about three stories that I want to get into as well. So let's go on ahead. Let's do this. So first off, I just want to talk about this, okay? So I've never been a huge fan of the Sony verse or anything like that. Like I liked the very first Venom movie, and I thought that it was actually the perfect way to do a Venom movie at that time. And yes, the character might be one dimensional. Yes, um, there might be some things I felt like the '90s, early 2000s kind of way of actually writing a comic book story or movie, but I just felt like it was good for the very first um just for the very first Venom movie right out of the gate, and I wanted it to be rated R. I wanted it to be on that kind of level because I feel like that Venom deserved to be rated R. But I definitely liked Eddie Brock and Tom Hardy. I liked him playing Eddie Brock in Venom, and and then the second movie comes out. And for me, the second movie felt like a SNL skit, right? It just felt like it was a 2.5 hour movie. And by the time you get down to the climax of the film, you just didn't care about what happened at the very end of it. And the third one, I didn't even bother going to see the third one because I figured, okay, you fooled me once with Venom, with Venom One. You fooled me twice, which makes me the fool for believing in your project by letting me go and see this movie. And then also too, Morbius wasn't that good, and I love Morbius as a comic book character as well. So I really didn't like any of the stuff that Sony was doing. So I'm glad that they're actually stopping, especially with Kraven sticking up the whole entire place. Like Sony has decided to cancel plans for more Spider-Man spinoffs. Now this is actually being reported by Forbes, but movies in the studio Sony Spider-Man verse, according to the Wrap. After multiple flops in independent disappointing of yet another SSU chapter next weekend, Sony's Kraven the Hunter bows next weekend amid otherwise strong performances for theatrical businesses in the past few weeks due to the record-breaking run for Disney's Moana 2 alongside the blockbuster grossing for Universal's Wicked. So the studio's struggling attempts to build a Spider-Man spin-off universe films based off villains and supporting characters, but without Spider-Man. And I've always said this. This is a big mistake when you don't have Spider-Man incorporated. All they want to do, especially with Madam Web, is slap the villains' names on it, and hopefully people will come out and see it because it's supposed to be a connected universe within the Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man, and that's what they're banking on. They just slap on one of the characters' names, hoping that Spider-Man will come. People who love Spider-Man will come out and see these movies, and it doesn't even work. And the approach worked mostly okay for the Venom trilogy, like I mentioned, but even those saw substantial diminishing returns from a high point of 856 million for the first film in 2018 to just 472.8 million for this year's Venom: The Last Dance. And then you have the Morbius and Madam Web, like I said, performed horribly, grossing a mere 167 million, 100 million respectfully. And when Venom: The Last Dance suffered 45% drop from the first film's box office, the evidence was too clear to deny Sony's Spider-Man universe has failed and now risks causing actual harm to the rest of the Spider-Man Sony films and superhero movies in general. As I argued before, the boost of Kraven's box office potential, Sony released the first 9 minutes of the film free online. And here's the thing: when studios go out there, right, and they release a 9 minute film, usually this tells people, okay, they believe in their property, they believe in what they're doing, right? And therefore, because I believe in this project, I'm going to actually use the first 8 or 9 minutes to promote this movie, and hopefully people will come out and see it. But for me, it's misleading because of the fact that I feel like that with Kraven the Hunter, they know this movie is bad, so they just want to go ahead and get this movie over with, just basically get people in there. But I have no intentions of even seeing a Kraven the Hunter movie or anything like that either. I really have no hopes for this movie. I don't even. Here's the thing. I don't ever hope for a movie to lose money or anything like that because here's the thing. If a comic book movie fails, that means that we won't get any comic book movies at all or anything like that. So therefore, I don't go into the intentions of hoping something will fail. I'm hoping that something would actually succeed. And because of the fact that it doesn't exceed my expectations or anybody else's expectations, that movie actually bombs, and it just sucks. It just sucks that the fact that this is not what I was hoping it would be. But yeah, and then also too to boost Craven's box office potential, like I said, it confirms that it looks like and feels like a generic also ran Marvel spinoff. And here's the thing: I was not excited about the trailer. If you actually go back and look at my trailer reaction, I was like, this looks very generic. It feels like early 2000s type of style of actually doing it. Yes, they did reshoots. Yes, they try to rebrand it as an R-rated movie, but it's an R-rated movie for the sake of being R-rated and also for the sake of being violent too. So it doesn't do anything but amplify violence and amplify everything else to the point where it's trying to ignore the plot lines, trying to ignore the whole entire sloppy writing, probably to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm breaking up with you, Sony. I cannot believe. Here's the thing: I cannot be with you whenever you failed me with Venom 1, Venom 2, Morbius. You fooled me 3 times. I'm in a bad relationship with Sony. So therefore, I'm going to exit my way out of this thing because I do not want to be part of this. But it just sucks that, there's so much potential for something to be success and it winds up being a loss. And the bad numbers for Kraven the Hunter and the Lord of the Rings, the War of is a low 2 million internationally last weekend, and headed for 5 million domestic, plus or minus a couple of million, could be good news for for the rest of it. And also too, on its 10-year anniversary with a big home release of Interstellar for Christmas, Interstellar had a strong 10-year anniversary release last weekend for 14 million. So it could benefit from extended release if WBD decides to reduce the pain and the War of Roran's loss for perhaps even pairing the films in hopes Interstellar has enough power to carry the animated fantasy prequel and higher as well. And yeah, so I could even imagine Warner Brothers making it even bigger challenge for newcomers by doing a 1 weekend pairing of Oppenheimer and Interstellar in premiere formats, for example, again, to take full advantage of Interstellar's popularity of the week box office competition from Kraven the Hunter and to magnitude the damage of the Rohan's impending underperformance, all of which finally led Sony to give up and admitted their long-suffering plans for being a supervillain team-up movie and crossover with Spider-Man have been in vain. And then Spider-Man becomes focus of Spider-Man movies. It sounds like a bit odd to say a studio has decided to focus their superhero franchise movies on the superhero, but here we are, considering that Sony has released more of these spin-offs of the SSU, which is the Sony shared universe, which I think is a stupid name, villain films that actually current Superman solo franchise films. The MCU Spider-Man Homecoming released in 2017 and the SSU Venom released their following year, and since then we've had only 2 more Spidey, but 4 of these spin-off villains. So, like I said, it's just there for the sake of being there for someone to draw in the Spider-Man crowd, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do jack squat for people at all. So, let me know what your thoughts are, though, too, about this, about Kraven the Hunter might be failing at the box office. What are your initial thoughts on Kraven the Hunter? Have you seen the movie or anything like that? I'm curious to know what you guys think. Because for me, I'm underwhelmed with the other stuff that I actually mentioned. I saw 3 of the Sony universe, shared universe, and I don't care about this anymore. So now I'm going to get into this other story, okay? So Austin Butler is actually poised to star as Patrick Bateman and Luca Guadagnino's American Psycho. And this is actually being reported by Variety, by the way. But here's the thing. I like Austin Butler. I thought he was purely underused in the Bike Riders movie. And I didn't like that movie. If you look at my letterbox, I actually gave it a poor review. But aside from that, I felt like it was underutilized. And I liked him in Elvis. But this is my main gripe, okay? So you're going to do a remake of American Psycho. So you're going to just reformulate everything that Christian Bale did and having it set in the 80s. And that's going to be it. So it's just going to be copy and paste. Nothing special. Now, if they chose to go with the 90s route and just decided, hey, look, we're going to go on ahead, put Austin Butler in the 90s doing American Psycho and keep some of the context of what the original American Psycho is mixed in with some of the stuff from the novel itself, that would actually be a lot more beneficial than a copy and carbon copy of of doing something of the same thing. And here's the thing that worked with Stephen King's It Part 1 was the fact that they changed the 1960s setting to 1980s to represent us millennials who grew up in the mid 80s and everything and going into the 2000 and being pretty much modernized. So that's what I figured, that's one thing that worked for Stephen King's It. This does not work for this in order for this to work. In order for American Psycho, the remake, to work, you need to go ahead and see what you have in front of you. You can take elements from the 80s and incorporate it into the 90s. And you can even make it like 1990 and put Patrick Bateman in that kind of setting. And it still has that kind of flavor of the 80s a little bit, because some people are kind of mixed up in the sense of the early 90s. Some people still wearing some of the same clothes from the late 80s and stuff like that, going into the 90s. You can do stuff like that. But to have a carbon copy of Patrick Bateman, of, you know, of Austin Butler just doing the same stuff that Christian Bale did, there's no originality to it. There's nothing new. It's the same thing. And also, too, I just want to mention this. American Psycho was a cult classic, okay? It didn't start picking up its edge until probably whenever it came into VHS or DVD, for that matter. And I love American Psycho. I have it on the 4K, seen it on DirecTV many times. I remember watching it all the time and stuff like that. But it's a cult classic, just like The Crow is. And The Crow also bombed, the original Crow bombed at the box office, and I actually seen that movie when I was 10 years old. But, and this also has that same kind of flavor to it, where, you know, American Psycho is also a cult classic because of the fact that it probably didn't even make that much money at the box office, if you think about it. Here's the thing. If you think about it like this, underneath the context of it, is the fact that the reason why it probably made a pretty decent amount was because of VHS sales, because of DVD sales, because of all that. Now that's gone away, everything's gone to streaming to the point where they can't really financially build up from what they did before in the early 2000s with doing VHS sales, rentals, stuff like that. And I just feel like, you know, that American Psycho for a remake is a bad idea. I'm not excited about it. And it's not the fact that I don't. Here's the thing. I have more nostalgia for The Crow than I do for American Psycho. For this, I'm looking at the story. I'm looking at the flow. I'm looking at what originality that they can do differently than what Christian Bale's version did. And I feel like you can't do anything really that special. And the budget was $7 million. It made $34 million at the box office. If you take a third of that away, that's the actual number, because you have to look at the fact that the way the movie theaters make their money, they actually take a third of what the movie makes, and then the rest goes into the box office, goes to the PR department, and that's how much is left over. And I just don't feel that excited for an American Psycho remake as much as I would probably want to, maybe once I actually see the trailer, maybe I might be sold on it. But as far as an Austin Butler role for American Psycho, playing that role, I don't care. I really don't care about this at all as far as the remake goes. There's nothing like the original. You can't match what Christian Bale did. And yes, and like I said, I like Austin Butler as an actor. I liked him in Dune 2. I liked him in Elvis. I liked him in that. But American Psycho, there's no originality, nothing new. It's gonna be carbon copy and paste through the whole entire thing. At least in my honest opinion. I just don't see the reason for it. Hey Rossie. But I just don't I just don't care about this. I really wish that I did, but I don't. So, but yeah, this is what Variety has to say about it. Austin Butler's poised to star in Luca Guadagnino's new uh, interpretation of the book American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis for Lionsgate. While there had been rumors that Jacob Elordi was being eyed to play Patrick Bateman, that casting didn't come to pass. Elordi and Butler have something in common, having both played very different versions of Elvis in movies by Sofia Coppola, uh, which is played by Priscilla, and Baz Luhrmann as Elvis. The film, which features a script by Scott Z. Burns, The Laundromat, will not be a remake of the 2012, but a new adaptation of Elvis. Uh, I still, I don't know how you can actually do something different with it unless you take the 1980s and then you flip it into where it's like a 2024 setting. But then again, I don't know. I just don't know how they would go about it. But maybe if I see a trailer, I might actually be sold on it. So now we're getting into the final phase of the movie news. So I love Clayface. I love Clayface in the DC comics. And he's actually an actor. The character of Basil Carlo. And here's the thing: he actually first appeared in the 1940s Batman comic books and stuff like that. He's a B-list actor who's driven insane when he hears that a remake of the classic horror film uh, that he starred in, Dread Castle, would be shot without him acting in the film, even though he is one of the activized staff. In response, he donned the costume of Clayface, a villain he once portrayed, and becomes a serial killer. So here's the thing: I love the fact that they're doing this. I'm glad that Mike Flanagan is like, "Hey, look, I got an idea here for Clayface." I like the fact that you can't go wrong with Mike Flanagan because he did Midnight Mass. Um he did a bunch of other stuff too recently. He's even doing the upcoming Exorcist reboot. He's also trying to tackle on he's also trying to do the Gunslinger, which is also a Stephen King novel based off of the new Stephen King novels and stuff like that, the Dark Tower. But yeah, Clayface is officially joining the DC universe more than a year after Mike Flanagan pitched his take on the shape-shifting supervillain. Deadline has confirmed that Flanagan has been taped to write the script for DC Studios in his work on the upcoming Exorcist reboot. We understand that the studio is still searching for a director. Flanagan has expressed his interest in making a standalone Clayface movie, writing on Twitter in 2021 that he wants to approach the film as a horror thriller tragedy, which is actually perfect for Clayface because he is a tragic character. Yes, he is a serial killer. Yes, he's done some horrific things and stuff like that. But underneath the surface of it all, this is actually a great thing to actually do for Clayface. I think that a tragedy, drama type of movie mixed in with some horror elements is perfect. I like Mike Flanagan. Like I said, he did Midnight Mass, did The Haunting of Hill House, he did Doctor Sleep, which is actually one of my favorite movies. So you actually have a director that actually knows the horror genre. He actually has passion for something that he knows that he can do. So I'm all on board for this. I don't know about if anybody else is or not, but I think Mike Flanagan is actually perfect to do this. and I'm excited to see what he can do as far as that goes. But yeah, I Clayface, hands down, one of my favorite DC villains, and I said this before, okay, and some people want to argue with me, but Clayface does not belong in the Robert Pattinson universe because of the fact that Robert Pattinson's universe feels like it's more of a realistic take on it versus it being comic book flavor to it. And I love what Matt Reeves is doing. I love the Penguin TV series. Of course, I did the reviews on it and stuff like that. But when you look at tone, when you look at what Matt Reeves is doing in that universe, it does not match what he's doing unless they wind up doing more of a realistic take on it, like they did with Scarecrow with Christopher Nolan's universe a little bit and doing it that way. But I wanted to be a little bit more comic booky and make it feel like an actual comic book movie versus it being realism. And I think Mike Flanagan will actually do that. I also love James Gunn and what he's doing over there at the DC Studios and stuff like that too. Because some people are already basically saying, "Oh, Superman's gonna suck," because of the fact that because of the fact that they don't know if it's going to be good or not because of James Gunn's basically putting in the elements that he has in his story and his writing and his stuff. Because usually he'll have some sexual jokes, he'll have some over the top stuff. I don't think he's going to do that for Superman. Yes, there's going to be some jokes here and there, maybe with Jimmy Olsen and stuff like that. But sometimes you just need to pump the brakes, see what we have in front of us, and see what James Gunn is going to do with this. And I think that Mike Flanagan is actually going to knock it out of the park with Clayface. But my question is for you guys. What do you guys think? Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think that Mike Flanagan is actually a good, perfect person to actually do this? I want to know in the comments below. Tell me what you guys think. What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? And stuff like that too. Because I want to know what your thoughts are about Mike Flanagan. I want to know what your thoughts are about American Psycho. I want to know your thoughts on the Sony universe. Are you guys excited about that or not? Tell me in the comments below. That's gonna be it as far as the show goes. It's a little shorter than normal, but I wanted to go on ahead, at least have a show out there for you guys to watch and listen to. But go on ahead, like, subscribe, all that other stuff. Check out the Unfiltered Studios people that we actually associate with. That's also our podcasting company that we're part of. So check out Unfiltered Studios. We have Sleepy G Show. We have the Hypno Wellness. We also have a lot of other people within our network ourselves. We have the Stupid History Minute. So check them out. And always until next time, guys. Bye-bye.